if there is, if Northern Ireland is in one situation with the customs union and the single market, and the South is still part of those things, there has to be some kind of border, and nobody has explained how that will be avoided. So it's not a false dichotomy, it is a real hard choice which has to be made by the government within the next 2 weeks. Which side are you on?
Well, look, this is all subject to negotiation. As you say, we've got 2 weeks in which it's going to get pretty tousy, it's going to get pretty tough in that negotiating room. It doesn't require commentators from outside Cabinet, outside government like myself, to try and commit the UK government to one side or the other, and I'm not going to do that on your programme. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
If I may say so, you're behaving exactly like Barry Gardiner. You're doing a Barry Gardiner, Ruth Davidson.
Well, do you know, I've had plenty of insults thrown at me before, but I'm not sure that one's going to stick. I don't think me and Barry are really from the same political tribe.
I know.
However,
what I am going to go on to say... You attack him for dodging this question, and you're dodging it too.
Well, if you would let me go on to say that we know that this is one of the really difficult nitty-gritty bits of the negotiation, and we understand that. But what we've been positing to the European Union is that we don't have to have something that's an off-the-shelf solution, because we are a different case to any other country that interacts with the EU. And let me explain why that is. You know, we're not Canada, we're not Norway, we're not someone else, because we are the only country that has previously been a part of the European Union, that complies with every single rule and regulation of the European Union, that will then sit outside of it. So there are differences there. Now, I know from 10 years as a reporter before I was elected, and you know from 30-some years of reporting on European negotiations, that the people that walk up to the microphones and speak to their home audience don't always reflect the negotiation and the progress that is going on in the room. When it comes to European negotiations, it's always a 5 past midnight job. So don't think just because you've got members of the European Commission who have got, you know, absolutely a stated position to defend, and I understand that and I accept that, that when they walk up to a microphone and they're speaking to their home audience, that necessarily reflects the progress that's going on in the room. Because we will see in 2 weeks' time whether we've got to a point where we can have this resolved.
And if we don't get it resolved in 2 weeks' time, how serious is that for the entire Brexit negotiations? Do we need to get on to the transitional deal? Do we need to get on to the trade talks with that agreement in 2 weeks?
Well, look, I think that it's really important that we get the transitional deal nailed down. That's not for the government. I think that's for businesses, so they know what they're doing next year and they're able to plan. But what I do understand is that if we don't make it through in the next 2 weeks to move on to that next phase, then we are rapidly going to run out of time in terms of getting us to a good position at the time that transitional deal is supposed to take place. So
this is quite a hard deadline, in your view?
Well, it's hard in the sense that it does constrict the amount of time we've got to do things if we don't make it into the next phase. I don't think it means that the world has ended, but I do think that it's a setback.